Welcome to the No Love Podcast, where we decrease tomorrow's divorce rate today by teaching singles and couples alike how to experience love on purpose and not by chance. I am your host, Edward L. Fairley, accompanied by my wonderful, lovely co-host, Michelle Larkin. Michelle, say hi to the people.
Hey, world. We back in the house.
All right. Before we start, definitely want to check in. Michelle, you got anything going on? Anything new? You want to share?
I got back from vacation. Nothing new. That's not even true. I actually was asked to do a Queen's Moves workshop for some friends of mine, and we're going to do it in October, which is a workshop for women in transition, and I'm kind of excited about that. We booked a date. We're planning, and I'm excited about it. So if you want to know about what's Queen's Moves, you can find out at umi-connections.com. But other than that, life's good. It's all about knowing love, because that's what keeps us going.
Well, that's great. Her and I also had been invited to a forum or a symposium. I think it was called like a relationship symposium. Unfortunately, yeah. And unfortunately, we couldn't make it, but we did speak to the person and advise them to please keep us in mind. We just had some conflicting schedule things going on to where we couldn't make it, but we definitely are open to being on your forums, symposiums, whatever you want to call it. If it has something to do with relationships, we want to be there, making sure that we are, well, at least me, I'm living out my purpose intentionally.
What are you trying to say? Whoa. At least
from
me.
a relationship standpoint, I cannot speak your purpose. If that is your purpose.
This is my purpose, to be here on a regular.
What I'm saying from a purpose standpoint, I would hope that she's going to be there with me. She's been with me and everywhere else in reference to this journey. But I'm just saying from the standpoint of this is my purpose and my passion. I definitely want to walk that out. Hey, Miss Charlene, good to see you, Charlie. So as far as what's going on over here, we still have the No Love app. Please continue.
We're trying to get to 1,000, so download that app.
If you are Android, we haven't gotten to iOS yet. I'm getting a lot of flack about that. But trust me, I'm working on it. It's out of my control.
It's a problem.
I might give you the inbox to my developers out in Pakistan. If you want to inbox them to see if you can put some fire to their feet to see if they can speed it along, great. If you are like a Pakistan developer whisperer to where you can to speed up the process for iOS, hey, let me know so I can give you my inbox so that we can try to expedite this process. But yes, please utilize it. Give us feedback, things that we can tweak or adjust to accommodate how you're using it. I would love to see some snapshots of the experiences that you're having with it. Again, it's definitely going to be a frustrating process, but I'd rather you get frustrated with that process to learn indirectly from the experiences on the simulation to avoid you having to go through it in real life. It would definitely condense the actual experience time to allow for you to grow and evolve into a relationship expert yourself when you are approaching this thing called relationship. Hey, Miss Lisa, Miss Ann Robinson is how it comes up. Miss Lisa said, hey, got a lot of highs and how's everybody doing? So this topic, I literally shared with someone what I was thinking I was gonna go with, and he was like, man, I'm not listening to that one. Me and my lady were in a good spot or whatever, and I'm like, yo, he said we haven't been there or whatever, and I'm like, it's definitely a necessary topic. If you haven't noticed, these last 3 weeks I've been kind of addressing some sensitive topics. It's not too much commentary in the comments or whatever, but we have to address these particular comments. Michelle, I'm gonna let you know right now what the actual topic is. The topic of discussion is today is how couples survive infidelity.
Woo-wee.
Yeah, today's topic is how couples survive infidelity. We're going to go over how to do it, what it looks like. Of course, both parties have to want to. As I stated prior to sharing, there's nothing that I teach on that I have not done, experienced, or I've experienced it all. I've done it all for you all so that I can learn from it, so that I can teach. So I'm going to be speaking from the victim standpoint, and I'm also going to be speaking from the victor the victimizer standpoint, so that we can see both sides, and also assist in how a couple who really wants to get through this, because this is a reality, can get through this. It's definitely possible. I've helped people through it. I've gotten through it. So this is just that topic. So before we start, do you have anything you want to share or say before I dive into this, Michelle?
There's a couple of things that flashed through my mind. I think I probably smell like smoke. I can't say I've been burnt by it, but I got close enough to get my eyebrows singed. And even that is challenging, to say the least. And the other thought that I had was, there's so many layers to that statement, including emotional. You know, like a first thing is the affair, and then the other one is the loss of integrity of the intimacy factor, right? So there's just a lot of, I've been close enough to get my eyebrows singed completely off. Still challenging.
Okay. So if y'all haven't noticed, do you see how uncomfortable she is right now? This is not a topic that people are comfortable with. She's not even dealing with this right now, but just the topic itself makes people.
I'm having flashbacks of the sin. Like you don't understand what I'm saying. Like you go into the fire and you get close enough to get your eyebrows singed before you walk back. Like there's some questionable thought process that even got you like, so I just reminding myself to check myself. Yeah.
I'm telling you, when the guy asked me what the show topic was, I literally said, I told him, and he was like, I'll probably start next week. Me and my lady, we in a good space or whatever. He didn't imply or say that it was something that he and his woman were going through, but it just is that topic. It's like
the game, though. This is all about similar to the game. Like if we can't talk about it before you get to it, then you can't deal with it when you have to face it. Like you gotta play out your worst case scenario so you have some tools in your toolbox. Like
not to mention, I don't care. There's gonna be somebody that's going through this right now. There's probably someone listening right now who is going through
my heart
right now. So we have to address this. We have to. So let's start with the fact that, okay, so betrayal is the toughest monster to defeat, or be triumphant over, like betrayal. So even from a biblical standpoint, I know not everyone is aligned with my faith or what have you, but even from a biblical standpoint, infidelity is the only, and I say the only thing that God says that it's okay to divorce someone with. That is how powerful or how strong this is. God says, okay, for infidelity, cheating, okay, that's a valid reason to divorce. Mm-hmm. So if you want to work it out and make it through it, you can, but that's the only thing. And I'm saying the only thing just to show how powerful it is for God to say that, because he ain't say nothing about abuse. He didn't say that, abuse is something that you can get divorced for. The only thing he said was infidelity. That's it. There's so many other, I'm gonna say, go ahead.
I said the only thing he called out and put on.
The only thing he called out. Yeah. So from that standpoint, there's so many other things that you can kind of think of if you use your imagination as to like, no, I think that's a valid reason for her to go or him to leave or whatever. But the only thing that he said, no, this is based off of the covenant. This is one that I'm going to back you on. Go ahead and separate or whatever. So I don't want to downplay the severity of infidelity. And I don't want to give anyone an excuse to consistently deal with infidelity. But I do want to give hope for someone who might be experiencing infidelity as to how they can move through this this process or this struggle or this current situation that you're in, so that you all can evolve into a thriving, like we had discussed last week, a thriving couple when it comes to this thing called relationships. So first and foremost, the ingredients that is clearly necessary in order for you all to survive infidelity is that you both have to want to move past it as an item. I get so many people that try to get me to counsel them, whether it be about infidelity or anything else, whatever their marital or relationship struggle is. Oftentimes, I have one person coming to me, and I'm like, "Well, where's your husband at, or where's your spouse at? Do they want to work this thing out? Because if they don't, if they're out, if they're already tuned out, they're done, as some people would say. Like when you put that same thing twice, like when you're done, it's probably like not going to work. I mean, I can try to help you. Clearly, I can give you the tools, as I stated earlier. The things that I teach, my wife would not be able to teach you, but she's the recipient of it, and I'm the one that took the approach that I'm teaching you to assist in our marriage evolving. So you can, by yourself, literally turn the relationship around in a 180. But at the same token, my wife, deep down, she wanted to have a relationship with me for us to thrive. So there was participation involved in the process. But if you have one person that just is not, they're done. You've exhausted all of your lives, your 9 lives or whatever, and they're just done. You're dead to them, for lack of a better term. It's pretty much a wrap. So that's foundational. You have to have somebody that wants to be in it. Now the second part, I'm gonna say this, and that's why I went through the whole betrayal, how severe it is. I even brought God into it, and I definitely brought in the fact that you have to have both parties that want to move forward. But the next part, which is probably the most important, is getting over it. Getting over the act. So let me put a pin in that statement. Getting over the act. If you are the victim, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where we're gonna get traction or whatever. And this is what we're gonna talk about, getting over that process. First and foremost, I'm gonna start by sharing a story. So I was on a radio show probably about a year or two ago, and the whole concept of cheating came up, and the guy was like, they kind of like, you know how people do, they talk about how, well, men, a woman she can forgive a guy more than a guy could forgive a girl. That's what the guy said. He's like, it's easier for a woman to forgive a guy that has cheated versus a guy get cheating. He said, but me, like, no, if my wife cheated on me, I'm done, and I can't. And then he went into the whole, because us men, we're visual creatures. That's how they're taught. Men, we're visual creatures or whatever. I'm like, oh yeah, because women are blind and they have no vision. That is the sarcasm for those who don't necessarily know me yet. That's ignorance. We're both visual creatures. We both have imaginations. Like we're all individuals or what have you. So he brought that up, and I said, in response to him, I said, so he said when it comes to my woman, he said, and my wife, he said, I cannot drive a used vehicle. That's what he said. That's what his choice of words were. He said, if I'm going to buy something off of a lot or whatever, trying to use analogies, you don't do that with Eddie. But he said, I won't have a used vehicle or whatever. I gotta have a brand new whatever. So if my wife, she cheated on me, she's a used vehicle. I said, oh, okay, that's interesting analogy. I said, so question, and I don't mean to pry, but I said, is when you and your wife got married, were you her first? And was she your first? He was like, nah. I said, well, then you got a used vehicle. And so, of course, he got a little uncomfortable. But the point of the story is, 9 times out of 10, when you get with someone, you had to already in your mind forgive them or get over the fact that they were with someone else outside of you. So just like you had to do that or you decided to do that, you can do that with the person that has cheated on you. We call this no love for a reason. And the reason why I call it no love, KNOWLOVE, is because everything that we're doing from a response standpoint, how we're responding, how we're thinking, is based off of our minds and how we think. And just like you had to, unfortunately, get over the fact that they were with someone else prior to you, you have the evidence that you can get over that they've been with someone while with you. Go ahead, Michelle. I know you're thinking, you got stuff going on, your eyes are squinting. It's tough information to chew on, but I don't know. We're going to dive in, but I want to hear your response.
So the capability or the capacity to mentally walk through and get over the act, I believe we absolutely 100% all have that capability. So I was kind of scrolling through and infidelity references a violation of a contract or a belief that this was an exclusive relationship. So my question or my thoughts and what was going through my head is getting over the act 100% I think is more of the easier than getting over the betrayal or the breaking of a covenant / understanding / expectation of exclusivity. So I was kind of the space was waiting for the other shoe. Like there's more to this.
So I would love to hear first of all, Charity Ford. You are absolutely right. Some folks can't even forgive you for people you were with before you were married, which is why they have to go back to the foundation of the triangle, which is self-interest and self-love. The insecurities that come with that all play a factor in it. And unfortunately, being cheated on is just going to contribute to the insecurities that you either never had or will possibly start to have with someone that is cheating on you. But I'm curious to know as to why you separated the two, because in my mind they are the same. You said the act is easier to get over than actual betrayal.
Possibly the way I think, but I think from my position, I can forgive the act. I'm more concerned with the motive, because it could truly be a transactional situation. It could have, if you could somehow get me to understand that this isn't a habit, consistent behavior based on some sort of lack in our relationship that hasn't ever been addressed. If we could get somewhere over there, then I could kind of partition off the act as, yeah, it happened and we can move past it. And now I have a better understanding and we can move forward. And it may have led to a more intimate, transparent, open. It could have. I do believe that based on all the stuff that we've been talking about, like assume good intent. Why are you even there in the first place? We all make mistakes. Look at the other person with the empathy that you would want somebody to see you. So all that being said, and if I'm a believer of no love at the core, then I have to be able to go into the conversation with, then we got some other things to talk about.
Mm.
Not how long did it take? Where were you when it happened? What does she look like? Where did you meet her? Like, that's not even the issue, like, to me. But again, because that's where I'm separating it, because I think that if we're talking about betrayal, or if we're talking about getting over, then I have to acknowledge what it is that hurt me. It may be for some people that it's the physical, seeing that physical act in your mind, because some, people walk in on stuff, or they get pictures of stuff, or and getting that picture out of your mind, it may be something that you have to deal with. But then, this super control freak type people like me are like, so how did you even get there? Like,
yeah.
Like, what, why were you even, what is that? So yeah, that's why I can separate the two, because I feel like, and to your point, exactly, like I'm going to be a little, maybe it's not appropriate, but some people don't want a virgin because they want somebody who's been with somebody, so they know what they're doing. So you clearly are okay with them doing some stuff. So let's put that in context.
Got it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let me read these comments first, because we got some comments.
Already?
So we got some dissertations going on. One person put, I can forgive a one-night stand, but a long, drawn-out emotional affair, then sex, then there's a problem. Then we have another person says, interesting topic, one of the hardest things to do in a relationship. Then put, what about forgiving someone, then finding out the person has a kid on the way? Some stuff is too messy. Most men don't want a virgin. They want a stripper that can pray.
Madonna horse scenario.
Betrayal is in both scenarios. Why one and not the other? All right, let's dive in. All right, I'm glad we are all engaged. So yes, all right. So we've already discussed this is betrayal. I have not downplayed this. Matter of fact, I highly recommend, if you're in a relationship and you're intimate and you sense that person is cheating, I highly recommend you make that person use the contraceptive to show them how real the situation is. Like, yo, no, all right, we can do it, but I'm
not sure. There's something in me. I got
something. I haven't gotten to that place yet. Something about that, because we're talking about your life here. So I highly recommend you literally showing how severe your trust level has now been depleted to, because your life is at stake. So if you're listening and you're going through this, your life is really at stake. And I would hate for you to realize that you have some type of disease because you did not listen to your inner voice telling you that this is just not right. All of the signs are there, and you're putting yourself in denial. So it says Noel Jones didn't want someone saved. He wanted Lisa Ray, not us shouting sister seeking God. Okay. All right. So yeah, that's that's a whole nother discussion. But I can't stress how severe this is. This is serious.
There's layers to this. There's levels to this.
Oh yeah. Yes. But we have to understand what's happening right now. Mm-hmm. So whatever dog you feed is the one that is going to live. Okay. So what's happening is when this happens, a seed has been planted. So now that seed has been planted into your mind, the thought, the betrayal, everything. Now your imagination is taken over through your thoughts. Now, what happens is now you're going to start to backtrack and think of all the times it could have happened. When did it happen? Why did it happen? Oh my gosh, now this makes sense. So this is where we have to snatch that. You have to be mindful of what's happening right now, how you are going on this roller coaster of things, and you have to stop it. And when your mind goes there, you have to feed it with something else. I can't tell you what that something else is, but it's more positive and probably more in the sense of talking about what you all want to do to fix the situation or prefer to. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you read the Bible, if you watch a comedy movie.
Something that you can be grateful for.
Definitely find something to be grateful for. And also to prevent your mind from going there, because what you're doing is feeding the problem, which will not allow for you to move past the problem. Exactly. So the first thing you have to do is to get a hold of your thoughts. You have to get a hold of your thoughts. And the reason why you have to get a hold of your thoughts, because it only gets worse as to what the next part is. And you kind of alluded to it.
Control. If you don't control your thoughts, then you're going to lose control.
So first and foremost, you need to be honest. Every single thing, emotion, feeling, or whatever, you need to release that in the atmosphere. That has to be shared. It must be expressed. I don't care if you write it, if you say it, you have to release all of that, everything that you're feeling and thinking, all right? That is a necessity. After that, this is where it's going to get even tough, even for my listeners. You have to be honest with whether you contributed to the current situation or not. So this is hard because you have been betrayed. There's nothing that warrants cheating. Nothing. And on the same token, there's things that I can hear that someone cheated and sit back and say, based on that, I can understand. All right. So we have to be honest with ourselves. There's nothing that warrants cheating. There are some things that you can hear that someone's going through that can make you say, I can understand why he or she did what she did based off of that circumstance. Examples: you have a spouse or a person that is interested in you and always is trying to get at you. They're always, and you always deny them sex. And y'all have had sex many a times, and for some strange reason, you provided this, or you've brought this drought to the situation. And this is male and female. I don't want y'all thinking that this is just a one-way thing. I can tell you some guys that's like, I just don't feel like it, or I'm just not seeing her like that, or no more, whatever it is. When she put, I tell my clients that it's important to look at your part you played. There we go. This is what we're talking about. So again, I cannot stress to you how wrong it is that you were betrayed, but I can tell you that it's possible that you contributed to what happened. Now, remember, I've stated multiple times in the game or the simulation of no love, there are cards where I've had people who are going through the actual pilot that say, well, hold on, this is contradictory. When I cheated, you told me I needed to get my act together. When they cheated, you told me technically I needed to address what it is that I did. How is it that I got to address what I did when I cheated, but now that he or she cheated, I got to address what it is that I did?
Control is this.
That's because 80%, and I'm confident in this, 80% of your relationship issues are the things that you can control. If you fix the things that you can control, the rest of the 20% typically is going to take care of itself. So we have to think about, okay, it's just tough. It's hard. I know it's hard. It's tough. Let me read these comments, because people I didn't expect to have this many comments, but forgive, and keep on forgiving, and it will still be hard. Also, the betrayer will have a lifetime of proving they have changed. They also must be prepared to talk about and reassure whenever the betrayed party needs this. The betrayed party also has to try to understand why the act happened or what part they may have played. We haven't gotten. I'm getting to we're talking about the betrayal right now. I'm gonna get on the other side. I promise you. I'm getting both sides. Then we have Shirley Strawberry said, don't ever confess to cheating if your man got a good job and doing what he's supposed to. You should stop listening to Shirley. How did you push away or contribute to the situation must be looked at? Exactly right. Contribution is not contrition, I'm sorry, is not enough. If someone is addicted to porn in the beginning, that's a red flag too. Okay. All right. So we're gonna stay on topic. But you have to, because if you don't, that means we are creating a cycle. If you're not honest about how you possibly contributed to this, whether it be because again, I've had this conversation with you all multiple times where I stated that
behavior, like if you have tolerated not being treated a certain way or tolerated some behaviors that were indicators that this was going to happen, and didn't address them, then that's something too. It's not always just like withdrawing from something or pulling something back. It's also not being honest. It's calling stuff out when you see it. Like if you don't like the way something makes you feel, then you need to talk about that, because it's layer upon layer, precept upon precept. It's not an instant thing. It's something that comes, and you are in the relationship with this person. You are there too. There's not that you see everything. I'm not saying that, but the more honest you are, the more clear your indicators are, like more you can hear. Like you said, like if you're feeling something, then you need to change some behaviors.
Yeah.
Don't even have to go into how did you or did you not. I just, until I feel it.
Something just doesn't feel right or seem right. So you have to be honest with yourself. Consider the fact that, were you doing this and then now you don't do this anymore? That's one thing.
Be present.
Definitely be present, but you have to consider how you contributed, because again, if you don't change what you possibly have done to contribute to the situation, more than likely the situation is not going to change. Even though you were betrayed, it was wrong that they betrayed you. It was wrong that they cheated on you. But again, there's situations where I can listen to it and be like, he's wrong or she's wrong, but I can't say I don't understand why he did it. I give you, all right, so if we find out that a guy killed 3 guys and tortured them to death, we'd be like, man, that was wrong. That's terrible. He's evil. Give him a death sentence. And then we find out in the end of the story that, well, those 3 guys or those guys, they molested his daughter. You go from, you either going to jump on his side or you're going to say, well, it's wrong, but I understand. I kind of get where he came from. If someone did that to my baby girl or my child, I probably would do the same thing. And that's all I'm saying in this sense is, okay, sometimes we get cheated on, but when we look at the circumstance and the situation, a person on the outside looking in could possibly say, I kind of can see how he or she ended up in that predicament. So we have to be honest with ourselves. I really don't have the time to go into all the different dynamics into how you could have contributed to it. All I can say is you really need to be honest with yourself. And that's very hard when you feel like you're a victim. It's hard to get out of that space when you only see yourself as a victim, as opposed to saying, okay, this is a relationship. I've contributed to this. And again, you can look through and say, no, nah, I ain't taking this one, bro. You just, as we stated, we're trifling. If you can really analyze yourself, or even listen to them, because I've had people that said, I've told him or her multiple times that I needed reassurance or whatever. Again, that is a foundational issue that you need to address prior to the relationship. But if you're in a relationship where that is the situation, then that person, it's something to consider. This person is crying for help. If someone had the audacity to say, hey, I need reassurance, that person is really stressing that there's a struggle that they have. I'm sorry. It's a SOS. They're literally telling you like, yo, please help me. So if that is happening and you disregard it or brush it off or tell that person they need to just get over it, you're really putting yourself in a predicament where that other person that wants to give them the reassurance is going to be the one that they're going to lean on. And it's very, very unfortunate and even sad. But it's a reality that we need to consider, because that it's happening quite often. And it's scary. Go ahead, Michelle. It says, oh, well, I'm sorry, before you go, it says both parties have to be honest with one another. You're in a relationship. Do your part and communicate. Go ahead.
And it does piggyback on that point, and it does go back to there's a certain expectation that has been violated, and you got to go back to what your expectation was. But as you were going through the process of catch your thoughts and be honest with yourself, and then do some self-reflection, I think that takes a certain level of emotional maturity and presence. I think that having been, like I said, close enough to have my eyebrows singed, I think that there's some space where emotions can take over and be fed by those around you, to the point where getting the clarity to be able to even take those first 3 steps is not even possible, because what you feed grows. And if you are emotional in your first response, people around you are validating, feeding. Acrimony. We were watching the movie Acrimony. If everybody around you is going to feed that beast and say, I knew and I thought and I already knew when I saw, and they no truth to it, just how they feel, you are at a loss. You're at a disadvantage of being able to even see clearly what your original contract agreement, your intent, because you lost it. Like, you somehow need to be able to pull away and stop for a second. Like you said, you can't stop your thoughts if you're constantly being barraged with everybody's opinion about what is going on. There's no way. If you are constantly reading your own conspiracy theory, there's no way. Like, what we love about the game is that you're not in the heat of the emotional situation, yet the facts are being presented to you. So all of a sudden you have this, logical approach to, well, I probably would. Not the case when the sister you just in love with walked in, smelling like somebody else. You're like, I'm about to hurt somebody. Like, you, what? Like, that is not the time. It's almost like you need to be like, you know what? I need a minute. That's all I do. Because it's very hard to catch those emotions once they've started to spill. And they spill, it's a lot of mess to clean up.
It definitely is. It most certainly is. Jen said also, even if you have forgiven and are moving forward, you must be allowed to be angry. When anger rears its ugly head, situations arise that can and will make you feel, have those feelings. I don't mean infidelity again, but it could be anything that reminds you of the time. It will take hard work on both sides. Then we have Charlie said, what if the person who did the betrayal is just selfish? That's why we started with, then you need to go. You need to sever.
Step back and look and see that for what it is.
You need to sever the relationship. If you've concluded that you've done everything and you two are not coming to the table with the thought process of a solution and actually trying to build from that particular situation, then you need to sever that relationship. Again, we're talking about your life, literally your life. You're talking about putting your life in a dangerous state. Then you need to sever that relationship, most certainly. So we were talking about, so you definitely have to, as you stated, you have to work on getting over it. That is a tough thing for me to even say out loud, because it's a very hard thing to do. I don't want you all to conclude that with me saying this, it's as easy as it sounds. This is a serious process, and you're combating a whole bunch of stuff that you're adding to it on top of what actually happened. So you have to definitely feed the right beast. If you want to get over it, you need to work on the things that will focus your mind on getting over it. Meaning you two literally pouring into one another, talking and being honest, as Lisa stated, being honest about what you're feeling, your thoughts, what's going on, how you feel betrayed. Everything that you feel needs to be addressed and shared. And then once you're being honest about how they made you feel, you have to be honest about how you possibly made them feel, which caused this to happen. You have to be honest with how you avoided or stopped doing or started doing certain things that may very well have contributed. One thing that we've discussed, which is why it's the third leg of the actual triangle, is self-evolution. Did you stop growing to where you're no longer attractive at all? This is not an excuse, but it's a reality. If I know everything there is to know about you, you get boring. And these other things are very interesting or fascinating to cause me to consider that route. So you need to stay a new you, not in the sense of changing yourself completely, but evolving to a better you. But we definitely need to start transitioning towards the betrayer and what they need to do in this process. Because we've definitely talked about what the person that has been betrayed needs to do. And again, it's not an easy thing to do. It's definitely a process, and it's going to take the work of both of you. So let's go ahead and talk to the other person, what they need to be doing while you're going through this process, if they really want this to work. Says main thing is to work on it together. Sometimes your so-called friends are the problem. Most certainly. Again, you have to protect your mind. And when I say that, I'm so glad that you shared that. Michelle alluded to that. The things like she said with what was the movie we just talked about? Acrimony. Her sisters and everything were feeding her thought process. Her family contributed to how she was thinking and her thought process, which evolved the whole imagination that she had going on in her head. So you have to be protective of who you're allowing to feed the beast, which is why your business should be your business. It should not be everybody's business, because now you're going to have people feeding you other thoughts on top of the ones that you already had. So you definitely have to protect your mind. Start shifting your thoughts to working towards the solution as opposed to harping on the problem. The less the details, the better. Please, the worst thing that you can do, and I don't know why people do this, is keep on reading. I've read the email, I've read the text, and keep on reading. Like, do not do that to yourself. Please don't do that to yourself. If you get a little bit of evidence is enough. Like, you can't be more guilty than guilty. Don't do that to yourself. Stop reading. Don't read anymore. Draw the conclusion. He or she did it, and start working from there. Don't add to your imagination. The reason why we typically hate a movie based on the book is because of our imagination. So the way we saw the book versus what we got in the movie is way worse or less appealing or vivid than the way we saw it in our minds. So don't do that to yourself. Stop. When you get the evidence, stop. Don't keep reading, because you're just hurting yourself and making it worse for yourself. And when you start feeding yourself, stop yourself and talk about it. Address it. If that's the time, you need to address it, but try to redirect your thinking to something more positive and more solution focused with the relationship. So now let's get to the betrayer. So the betrayer. Go ahead, Kathy. She said, nah, I need to know everything or I will keep imagining. Okay, go ahead, love. You go ahead and do it. I don't recommend it, but if that's what you need to do or you think you need to do, go ahead.
Stop imagining. It's not gonna. It's going to solidify a particular picture. Then you'll just add more movie to it.
Yeah,
your brain doesn't know how to stop. It's gonna.
If that's what you want to do, go ahead, love. It says if you get to a point where you gotta look for evidence, you will find it.
100%. You will get what you think about, and if you think about all the things that went wrong, then you'll get more stuff that goes wrong.
Now, let's talk about that, because all this stuff is kind of talking about the person. Now, if you were the person that cheated, I'm talking to you now. This is what you got to do. This is what we got to do. First of all, you got to do everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything you can to regain their trust. Everything. What does that look like? No more phone password. Giving passwords to all passworded things. That's your inbox, your email, whatever. You need to do whatever you can to gain their trust back. Randomly give them your phone for however long. Let them have your phone forever, for however long. You need to give them all the reassurance necessary in order for them to feel like they can trust you again. And what I highly recommend you do is you need to allow them to see you resolve the issue. What do I mean by that? I don't care if it's an email. I don't care if that's them hearing you talk to the person on speakerphone. I don't care if it's them seeing the inbox or IM or whatever it is. I would highly recommend them having the opportunity to see you sever the relationship with the person that you have been cheating with. And when the person tries to get back in, every time anyone else, when that other person or whatever tries to get back in, because it's going to happen, especially if you did the daggone thing, they're going to try to come back. Hey, I'm just calling it what it is. If you did it, if you did the thing, they're going to come back. All right, so if they're trying to come back, you need to forward all those messages to your respective spouse or whomever you are with. Forward them. You can respond to them and then show them if you want. But you need to let them see every single thing that is going on to work on the necessary reassurance that, yo, I'm in this. I apologize. Flowers sound good. Cars sound good. All that stuff is crap. Sounds good. It's going to cost you money, but it's absolutely not going to work. It's not going to work. It might. Now, if you have a person that, like, you know, gifts and stuff kind of work for, you kind of need to work on getting a person with more depth.
But they still need
just calling it what it is. You might need a person with a little more depth, but it might work for the first time or whatever. But hopefully, it might work once or twice. And I'm hoping that you're not at a once or twice or 13th or 19th person. But again, if we're not working on how we're contributing, it's definitely possible. So that they are going to be a serial cheater. But if we're doing everything that we can do to try to prevent it from happening, if you feel that person is worth it, because I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. Again, speaking on from both ends of the spectrum, some people cheat in hopes that they get caught so that you could break up with them. #9 that. Some people cheat in hopes that they get caught just so that you can break up with them because they prefer not to break up with nobody. That's just not their thing. They don't have the stomach to break up with people. It's kind of like the it's not you, it's me type situation. That statement is the epitome of the action of someone cheating because they want you to catch them so that you can say that it's not you, it's them. Some people want out and they're doing stuff wanting you to catch them so that they can get out of the relationship. Let me read some of these comments. You find out they got another phone and another email. You need to repent daily. Material things don't build trust. I agree. I stated that. I don't even really like flowers. Keep those. Okay. Got a while, but okay. All right. So yes. So again, like some people, their motives, you said it earlier. Some people, you have to get to the motive. Sometimes the motive is like, some people cheat because they have insecurities, period. They have insecurities, and I stated it earlier.
Contributed to. They have insecurities.
Yeah, and again, we stated, so we've had this conversation when we talked about sex. Sex is a mental thing. They might not be putting it down anymore, and they're not getting a response from you. So because of the new sex or the new person, because they lack depth, you figured everything it is to know about them. So the sex is not good anymore because sex is a mental thing, not a physical thing. We've already talked about that and proved that, which is why sex is typically great in the beginning. Then it might get trash later on because you have mentally found trash. Yeah, I chose trash as the word. You have mentally found out everything there is to know about that person. So because of that, you no longer are interested in them, which makes the sex bad. The sex didn't change. Your thought process about the person has changed, which in turn made the sex bad. So this person who realizes that they lack depth or the sex is not bad, and it's not your fault, it's theirs, because they're no longer interested, they're going to new sex because the sex is good for new people because, and as time gets past, they're no longer a person with depth or interesting, and it's going to suck for them. So they need to move on because they won't grow to where they're attractive again, to where that same relationship, the sex can be great. Boredom. True. Yes. Again, I'm not defending them, but I'm telling you that there's some people that go through certain things or do things because, so some people are cheating because they want to get caught. Some people are cheating
so that they can be checked by you because they feel like being checked is showing love or showing how much they're desired. So they want you to catch them and go off the deep end because all of this emotional, floundering shows that you love them.
Yeah, or even look, they're getting a response from you. It's kind of like that.
Some response that you weren't getting any before. At least I'm getting
anything. Now. Exactly. They're not getting anything. So now they're getting some kind of response. You weren't giving me anything. Now is that like that child that is acting up because they're not getting any attention. So they're trying to seek attention. So, but back to this, because right now it sounds like I'm trying to make the actual person that betrayed the person a victim when I just want to make it understood that the victimizer can be a victim in the sense that they haven't addressed the triangles that we've discussed. They have not addressed their self-interest or self-esteem issues, which in turn is causing or contributing to the problems at hand. Then you have people you got a person that could be cheating to get some get back, something that you did to them. that now they're being vindictive and they're trying to get back. But as far as the person, and I mean, go ahead. You're touching your lip. I know you're thinking. Go ahead. Share what you think. Share what you think.
So I'm keeping notes, right? I'm keeping track. So we're talking about how couples survive infidelity. And I think that it was cool that we talked about like how to catch yourself from and bring yourself back to have an intelligent conversation about it. But then I also like the fact that the person who did the betraying has to bring transparency and demonstrating their commitment, because this is really goes back to commitment. If I'm correct, in assuming what infidelity means, that it's a breaking of a commitment. So it has to all go back to survive it. You have to go back to the foundation, which was this commitment. And I'm curious as to what your thoughts are on evaluating, getting back. How do you survive? How do you get back to the commitment?
So, I mean, honestly, that's what doing everything you can to regain trust is. It is showing the work of the commitment. So I know that I've addressed an area of trust and I've robbed you of this. So this is what I'm willing to do in order for me to work on that. So I'm, like I stated, password to the voicemail, password to the email, password to whatever. I saw a person, which is the epitome of what I mean by adding your friends is probably not going to be a good thing. Somebody said, then you find out they got another email.
Doesn't the betrayer, the person who did the offense, have to do the same thing though? Don't they have to go back and catch their thoughts and figure out what the heck they were thinking that got them in this situation? Don't they have to be honest and express themselves as they kind of work through this too? And
yeah, so I mean, if you're and I alluded to that, I didn't say it, so I'm glad you're making me say it. When you're honest with yourself, you have to assess what changes you have to make in order for you to, when you're honest with yourself and you realize how you contributed to this person deciding to look elsewhere, you have to put in the necessary work in order for that change to come. So you two should have that open and honest discussion that, you know what, I can be honest and say, what you did was wrong, but I can be honest and say that I contributed to this.
I'm saying the betrayer has to say the same thing. The betrayer has to say, I was wrong, and here's why. Here's my thought.
Oh, most certainly. So yeah, that's true. That's true. But at the same token, some people like hearing I'm sorry is such a some people like, okay, for example, we talked about the 5 love languages. So words of affirmation, that's one of the love languages that they teach or what have you. But words are good, but actions are better. So you can say it, and it should definitely be sincere. I don't even think that you would get to the point where you can have this dialogue to where you're sharing how you feel, or that hey, this is what I'm willing to do without really apologizing. I don't see someone just starting to do, you know what, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. Like, that is a only person that is going to do this stuff is a person who has owned up to their mistake or they
stopped their thought process. The betrayer stopped and said, wait a minute, I have to stop my thoughts because my thoughts are contributing to my actions, and my actions are wrong, so my thought must be wrong.
And this person, I've concluded, is worth me fixing what I've done wrong, which is how we're going to transition to the last part, because doing everything to regain their trust is definitely necessary, and it's going to take time, because what you've done, unfortunately, is you've taken however many months or years or whatever from that point to the minute that they've gained trust in you, they're questioning all the years prior to that. Every single, however long you've invested your time, if it's been 15 years, 20 years, 10 years, 6 months, 3, that is the time that in their mind, they've concluded you've been doing this. Even if you can prove through receipts or whatever, through their imagination and their thought process, you have caused them to question everything.
That means that in their mind, you were never really committed, right? Because that's what you're saying. You're saying is, if I start to question from the moment you betray me what all of the history of our relationship was, my question then really at the root of it is, were you ever really committed? Because if you could make this poor decision, what thoughts you were having, if I'm not having them, right? Because we tend to project. If I'm not having these thoughts and you're having these thoughts, were you ever as committed as I am?
Yeah. So doing everything you can to regain trust is wonderful, but consistency and being patient is what is going to bring it to the actual thing. Because see, what happens is, let me tell you what happens in this process.
Let me tell you what happens.
The person that is the betrayer, they get their act together. They start showing the emails. They do all of this stuff. And for some crazy reason, they start in their mind thinking, yo, I don't have to deal with this. Why do she or he needs to get over this? Why do I have to do this? No, sir. No, ma'am. For however long it takes for them to heal is how long you need to do this. So actions are great. I mean, apologies, great. Actions are great. But consistency is the only thing that is going to break this. And patience is the only thing that's going to give you the authentic ability to get through this. Which because when you get to a place where you're starting to think, well, I shouldn't have to do this anymore. For one, you are the one that caused this to happen. 2, what are you really doing? The stuff that you're doing technically should not be hard to do. I don't have a lock on my phone. my wife knows all of my passwords to everything. If I change it, I tell her. But these are things that, because I've lost trust before, I've had to do, and I was willing to do to regain trust. Let's read. Tequila says, words are good, actions are better, but consistent change behavior is the only thing I'm paying attention to. Do couples really survive infidelity, or are they just tolerating it? That's a great question. I'm evidence that couples can survive infidelity. So there's your answer. I think some really do survive. Think of those who've been married 30 plus years. Forgiveness had to take place at some point for them to keep going. At least I think so. How do generational curses play into the problem? Like seeing these actions while growing up. Excellent questions, actually. All right, so let me address what I've already addressed. Are people just tolerating? No, I've already had the conversation last week where I said my wife would get up. I might be on the phone at 2:30 in the morning, talking to a woman, random woman. She probably wouldn't know who it is. And typically, 9 times out of 10, my conversations with anybody end with "I love you." So that's just what it is. Has that always been that way? No, not at all. I've had to work my way up to being able to have that type of relationship. But I've definitely earned the trust that I at one time had lost with my wife. Generational curse. We talked about this technically last week. Charlene, I'm not going to get in depth. If you want to talk offline, we can, because that would almost be kind of like a Bible study, because that's basically what that term generational curse is. But I'm going to say this. We kind of discussed this last week when I said you all need to separate yourselves. If you all are in a predicament where your children see you in an environment where the relationship that you and your spouse or the person you're with is not the relationship that you want your children to aspire to have, then you need to separate. And notice how I chose separate, not necessarily divorce. Again, unless it's been infidelity involved. Just trying to be aligned biblically, because that's my beliefs. But separated is necessary so that they can at least see you all with someone else in a loving relationship, so they can learn what the normalcy of a relationship looks like, so that they can aspire to have that for their lives. So that's how you break the generational curse. But from a biblical standpoint, that generational curse was already broken when Jesus died on the cross. Literally, when he said it was finished, it was after he drank the sour vinegar, which translates to wine. And if you go to, again, we would have to have a inbox. But yeah, just talk to me outside of that, and I can literally show you the scripture as to why he asked for the actual vinegar, which translated to wine. And it's when in the Bible it said your children's teeth will cleave. It's talking about the generational curse. But again, that is why he waited to the final thing, which generational curse was done, for it to be finished. It's okay. No need to apologize, but the show is available for you to go there. So no need to say my bad. It was a wonderful question nonetheless. Ms. Ronico said, definitely need to realize that, what you tolerate or allow will continue until you speak up. Most certainly, you must certainly speak to your situations. You can't, what you don't say is what you're saying. Okay? What you don't say is what you're saying. So if you don't speak on something, you're saying it's okay. Okay? So what you don't say is what you're saying. But patience. So we get to this place where I've been doing this, like, she needs to get over it. He needs to get over it. Like, no, you need to realize what you've done and how many years of distrust you've planted this seed from your action, and you need to just deal with it. But at the same token, it's not tolerating a person if you're doing something out of love in the first place. if this is what I need to do to show you that I love you and that I made a mistake, and I want you to know that it's not something for you to be concerned about when I am in different places or with women, or if you see me give somebody a hug, then you need to do that and be okay with it and make it your routine to where it's not something that you have to be thinking about in the first place. So you have to be patient. You must be consistent. And most importantly, you have to do whatever it is that they need for you to do for them to get back to that place of trust. Go ahead, Michelle. You're writing.
I just try to be patient. To your point, and I'm just thinking of it from a viewer standpoint, right? Or just the audience. It's kind of like, do you tolerate something? Not consistency is the root of trust. Like it's a.
That's good. That's really good.
It's one of the basic tenets of trust is consistency, and that's why you even got into the relationship in the first place. Like, consistency actually creates new habits. So if this person is willing to revisit, to go through the process we talked about, then deliver consistency, you have to know that we humans, when we're consistently doing something, it creates a new habit. Just like eating new food or doing exercise, it creates a new habit. And at the point that it becomes a new habit, it becomes an authentic part of this our new self. Like, you can change your behaviors to the point where you don't even remember what it was before. And if somebody's going to be willing to go hard in the paint for you, acknowledging that the problem that they have, then you have to give credit to the fact that at some point it's going to create a new them. And that person is the person that you're with, right? Like that's why you're staying in this, is to get to that next chapter, because you have to, your motive is not to get out of the doghouse, but to build a new relationship. So it's somebody who's consistent, is not just really being consistent just to do that. They're trying not, the doghouse is not the motivation. So stop trying to keep them in the doghouse. Try to get them past, if they're trying to get to a new relationship, and consistency runs new grooves, right? So if you are in this lane and you're going wrong, and this person and you guys both decide to go over here, you are running new grooves and creating a new space for a new relationship. But you got to give them the benefit of the effort that they're giving to try to get to new habit, which is a new self.
That's so good. That's wonderful. And that goes back to so let's talk about what no love is. Love, it's the difference between love and manipulation. The only reason why you would get frustrated that they're not responding accordingly is because you're doing that to get a response, as opposed to I'm doing this to get your trust back in me to show you that I love you. So when you're doing this to say, okay, all right, it's been 3 months now. Now she still ain't giving me none. Like, I'm over this. Like, I've done all my checks. I gave the email. I gave the whatever. Like, wait, hold on, wait. So what your motive was to get some, as opposed to help this person heal. It's not gonna work. And it's gonna be apparent when you do it that you're doing it to try to get, hey, see, look at me, look what I'm doing, see it, look, I'm showing you this.
That's the inauthenticity, right? So then that's not a new habit. You just stopped eating the food until you lost the first 5 pounds. You didn't change your life. You just going to the doctor hoping that you have to change the pill. But when the pill changes, you go right back to the same one. We didn't change. We did not change. We just went for a new check.
That's great, and you got a lot of perfectly said Michelle's, nicely said Michelle's. One of the things that you said that I absolutely love, Michelle, is consistency is the root of trust. And with that statement is that betrayal is what questioned your consistency up until that point, which in turn ruined the trust. And now you're starting from square one.
All over again. New growth.
All of those years. All of those years. And that's why I've had these conversations. Like, I got these people that are like, they are I've been doing this for years. I'm in the game. Like, I've been a player or whatever. I got this game on lock conversations, right? And I'm like, okay, that's cool. Great. All right. You've been able to hide the fact that you're a player. You got the game on lock or whatever. If you die today, who do they give access to all your stuff on your phone and stuff? it get real quiet. If that's your legal spouse or whatever, like if they go to the to the actual cell phone place, say, "Hey, my husband died. I need access to his phone to get some information, whatever." You have died a death as this quote unquote player with someone that has all of the information that you've kept successfully up until that point. So your death is going to be where they get the evidence of your cheating. And that is going to be the legacy in their mind that they have to live with as who you are. You can't defend it. You don't have this timeline where you have to rework on trust or whatever. That is the absolute last conclusion that they're going to have about you. And that is going to be the moment that they realize that you cheated, and everything else prior to that is going to bring you back to square one, to a zero place. And
that's huge. And I say that because
man.
have somebody who hasn't ever really understood love. Getting someone who is consistent has changed my whole game. Like, because all these other indicators were what love was, whether they showed up, whether they gave gifts, whether they said the right things, whether they had the right money and the right car. And then you're like, whoa, but consistency is more effort, and it shows more concern, and it really can't be faked. Because it was like, go back to something I think is in the game, but when your representative shows up, it can't last forever. You can't wear that mask.
Yeah,
for so long.
Yeah.
And if you ever get in a relationship where you get past the mask to this real person, and this person has an infidelity situation, I think you're coming from a different angle. I think you have more. It's social capital. So for me, this is it's a huge term for me. The person who has invested in me has more capital to spend than somebody who hasn't. So if you make a mistake and we have long history, you may lose some ground, but you're not going to out the door. You may lose all the way to sitting at the door still, like just sitting there. You can't come all the way to the living room, but you're not going to get out the house because of what you put in. But infidelity is a lot less likely to be successfully getting over with a little less time, because you haven't had the legacy to play against. And again, to your point, if you die the moment after you have this infidelity, what are they going to remember? Are they going to remember only the cheat? Yes,
exactly.
You've only been in this 6 months. I don't have no history on who you are. I've only known the representative. That's all I've ever known.
Exactly.
And then you cheat. Exactly. Done. Peace out. If you've been with me 20 years, I know who you are. I know your weaknesses. I can see when I do my self-reflection how I contributed to what may be what your thoughts were. Yeah, you still may find yourself out the room on the couch, maybe in somebody, in the study, but we're gonna have to work through it. But you have to be invested. Your representative got to show up. You got to be out the door, and you got to show up. And that's why I really believe that you can't really fake consistency and authenticity, because you can't keep it up. And it's to the person who's betrayed, it's to their advantage to let this play out, to see how long they can keep this up, because that does speak to how committed they are. Without you having to go, you should have, you did, like, how long will they stay in this space of transparency, which is ultimately the goal in any relationship anyway.
That's right.
How long will they stay in this space of transparency, get comfortable in it so that you can get comfortable in transparency and ultimately get to this next chapter? It's worth it to stay and figure that out. Because if they can't deliver, then you don't have to worry about whether or not you got to make a decision. Decision has been made.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because I was angry. It's because, are you going to be this person, or are you faking the funk?
Yeah. Let me give y'all an example of how, like, severe I'm talking about, like, going hard for the person that you love. So first and foremost, let me clarify. You can cheat physically, and you can definitely cheat emotionally, and you clearly can cheat both. So from the standpoint of my infidelity, when it comes to marriage, it was emotionally. But I put that out there because I wanted it to be understood that you can definitely cheat without physically having an affair. So for one, I wanted to make that clear. But two, just to show you how hard I went in the paint, for lack of a better term, because that's what came to my mind for my wife, even with marriages. I don't know if you all have listened to my the podcast, something to do with, I think, insecurities or what have you. I shared a lot of stuff, but first and foremost, I've been exposed to sex since 4 years old. Started having sex at 6 years old. I'm 37 years old, so that means for 30 years plus, I've been having sex, or at least introduced to sex. I say all that to say, clearly sex was my struggle. So when I got married, which is so crazy because now I'm thinking about this, it makes sense that it wasn't physical, it was emotional, that because of what I put in place to protect myself from a physical aspect. So this is the steps that I took for when I got married to prevent myself, for the person that I love and loved from physically cheating, because I know that was a weakness of mine. So first and foremost, it's a lot that I have to be attracted to. So you have to be, if y'all notice, remember, if you've been listening long enough, Maya Angelou, that's my heart. That's the only woman that I literally said my wife probably gets jealous about. Oh, that woman. Because her mind. So that is sexy to me. And I think the reason why sexiness is mental is because that can't be faked. Can't put a makeup on it. You can't do anything. Like you have to be intelligent. Like you can't fake that. Like you are. So that's sexy to me. So all right. So clearly, when you see someone, you can be physically attracted to them. That's like, so people that get all deep and say, it's the mind or whatever. I agree with that, but let's call the elephant in the room. It takes for you to be physically attracted to even find out about the mind. Otherwise, you're not going to look at them and find out that they got a sexy mind. So that's just the real. Now, I challenge anybody in this. If you ever see a person that you say, how did he get her, or how did she get him? I guarantee if you ask them how they met, no offense, but it's just reality, they were in an environment where they were forced to hear each other's minds. So that'd be class, work, any environment where they had to see the person past the physicality. That's the situation. So that's a side note, but I want you to see what it looks like to go through steps for a person that you love. Okay, so my concern was myself. Talked about generational curse. Charlene, that has been my family story forever. My father, he's literally in prison because of a sex triangle and trying to kill his mistress. That is clearly our struggle. So that was something that I wanted to get a hold of and a struggle that I had. Okay. So this is what I did. I don't have to do it anymore because I've overcome that. But this is what I did. So first and foremost, I know that you have to see the person be attractive. So see the person. I literally, if my wife could not make it to an event, I had two guys that knew that their job was, if they saw me with a young lady that I'm clearly engaged with and really enjoying their conversation, to get me out of that environment. So that was literally their jobs. I'm not going to call their names. They know who they are. They were my frat brothers, and they knew their jobs was to do that. That's one. The second thing was, if those two could not make it, I literally had a friend who was a hater and didn't know he was a hater, but always was willing to come with me to certain things. So I depended on him to do his job as a hater if those two could not make it, and I would invite him to an event. So when he ever saw me talking to a young lady and having a good conversation, he would randomly say something like, well, how the wife and kids? How to whatever. He literally, he didn't even realize what his job was. But I brought him because I knew he would do his job. Now, if I had to be at the event and he couldn't make it and those two could not make it, I literally depended on the fact that most people, and I hate to say it, have no depth. So I would see that the young lady was attractive, but in my mind, I knew after we had the conversation, she's gonna ruin everything that's physical with her mental conversation. I'm serious. This is literally my. This was my.
You had a contingency to a contingency to a contingency.
Exactly. So this is what my thought process. So look. So say she jumped over that hurdle, and it worked. Now we're headed from wherever we're headed to get to wherever she is. One thing that I've always been religious about was safe sex. So clearly I'm married. I'm not going to have a condom. And guess whose condom I'm not taking? Theirs. So say it got hot and heavy or whatever, and we were headed there, I'm not using your condom. So I have to leave to go to a 7-Eleven or whatever to get a condom. When I leave, I've already escaped. I am going to keep going until I get home or to my hotel or whatever. That was literally the hurdles that I would have to get to in order for me to physically cheat. And that's what I was willing to do and put into place for someone that I loved enough to where I was able to get to a place where it's like, first of all, that's not even sexy that you coming at me when I'm with my wife. I just met you. Like, this didn't even grow to that. Like, ill. So, but that was a process.
You created a new groove. With those behaviors put in place, you created a new space.
Yeah. So that is, I shared that to say, like, this is what I mean by do everything you can to regain their trust. I just gave you the format of what I literally did because I didn't trust myself with other women. I didn't. It didn't say anything bad about my wife. It said everything bad about who I was and what my struggles and my weaknesses are. That's why I'm not judgmental when people have a struggle. I just equate it to what my struggle is or was. And to me, we have a common bond at that moment. So I hope that helps somebody. But the reality is, for one, cheating does not necessarily have to be a physical thing. You can literally fall in love with someone else. And for those who think to this, if you love your wife, you can't fall in love with someone else. First of all, the fact that if you've ever been in love with somebody else and then you fell in love with somebody else after y'all broke up is evident that you can love somebody else. The trick is to not allow yourself to have enough vested, intimate time where you can begin to have those feelings for another person. That's a whole nother show.
Back to, I think we talked about this in another situation, but love is only one facet of a relationship. How you feel is only one facet. The commitment part is the other. So you may have the ability to have the capacity to feel something for more than one person, but based on what you decided a commitment is, you shouldn't have a commitment with somebody else. Yeah. And that should neutralize and make some other decisions about how you're going to behave about what you know. And honestly, I think what we're hopefully trying to drive at is that we're not animals to the point where we have no brain and we're not involved in this process. Like, we're not just drawn away by everything that passes our eyes. We do get a voice in this. We can make decisions. We make decisions to get into relationships, and we need to make decisions about how we're going to maintain them or emotionally and correctly get out of them. Don't just fall out. Like, if you're mature enough to get in a relationship and you're expecting it to be committed, then be mature enough to step out correctly. That's all I'm saying.
And another thing too, like,
my bad.
The stuff that we go through, honestly, like, a relationship is just a mirror. of what your insecurities and your failures are. So when you go through stuff, it's just a mirror of where you're coming short and you really need to work on. And if you disregard it, which is what I mean by being honest about how you contributed to the situation, and then you being honest on the other end as the person that betrayed the person, saying like, yo, this is like, if you didn't tell the person that this is what you like in the bedroom, how in the world can they do that in the bedroom? So like, we really have to be honest with our partners, and we have to also create environments where our partners can be honest with us so that you can have that transparent relationship that Michelle was talking about.
And
But
consistency is a huge part of that.
exactly.
And I say that to my friend. This is my friend. And the reason I even got to friend with him is because he's consistent. And there are other, and I say that to those of us who may not be married or in a relationship in this audience, is that learning the value of consistency from the opposite sex in the friend group is incredibly valuable. Like, you know then what not to tolerate.
That's good. That's good.
And I'm not married, so I'm just saying that I have learned to set the caliber of the friends that I have because of what we went through, and to develop in a relationship as far as friends is it's a privilege. It's a privilege to be able to be that close to somebody. And I want to make sure that I make solid decisions on letting people get in that close, which mitigates some of this that we're talking about, and or creates at least a length of time in history with this person so that should something occur, they have some social capital to spend before you in the deficit and you bounce the check. So, but I say that to say these lessons and things that we're talking about they are based in good, solid relationship, but I can say from my life experience that they're also great principles for just relating.
That's excellent. That's a great way to conclude. So this, my friend, is how you can survive infidelity. It's possible. I know plenty of people that have done it. And if you two really want to, it's possible, but you're going to have to take these steps, and they're very, very uncomfortable, trying, and hard steps. Getting over it, hard. You have to really, really try to refocus and recalibrate your way of thinking towards the person, and not allow yourself to continuously add to the thought process of it, or of the betrayal, and then start shifting your thought process towards a solution. Then second, being honest with your possible contribution to the current situation. Some people are selfish. So if you come to the conclusion that after assessing yourself that person is just selfish or trifling or what have you, please, and I can't stress you, be honest with yourself, because that's typically not the case. I'm not saying it's never the case, but typically that's not the case. But if you come to that conclusion, then you need to sever the relationship because your life is at stake. And remember, I stated, like, I really think talking about shifting a person's thought process that is cheating, making them put on a condom, or making them use some type of protection when you all
very sobering.
Yeah, it's very, very sobering. It makes that person like, dang, like, yo, I really, really messed up. She done went and bought some condoms on me. You know what I mean? So that if you want to have a paradigm shift in thought, or have a person really, really check, for one, to save your life, as well as to let them know, like, yo, this ain't, I just don't trust you yet.
Me enough to protect me.
Exactly. And again, which is why that's a foundation. Self-interest is a foundation before you build or whatever. You have to love yourself. And then do everything you can to regain their trust. You have to. It's a must. It's imperative. And you have to be flamboyant with it. Show them everything that is going on so that you can do whatever it takes to regain their trust. But you need to do it so that you're gaining their trust, not gaining your way back into the bed or back into their good graces.
Or out of the doghouse.
Exactly, or getting yourself out of the doghouse. That's not what we're doing. If that person is somebody that you love, you need to take the time necessary, which is more than likely why they're not moving when you get all frustrated that, hey, I've been doing this for so long and she's still not responding or he's still not responding. It's typically because you're looking for them to respond to your actions, as opposed to you genuinely just showing acts of kindness and love and showing them what's necessary for them to gain the trust. And then lastly, being patient and, of course, consistent which should not be hard in the first place, because you want to consistently love your wife. You want to consistently love your husband. You want to consistently give them reasons to trust you. You want to consistently have them feeling at peace when they go to sleep at night. You want them to consistently be okay with you having conversations with other people of the opposite sex. So that should be something that you will want in the first place. So just take responsibility for your actions and do the necessary work to get the relationship back to where it's supposed to be. But be mindful that when you betrayed them and they found out, that pretty much started the relationship all over again. So that's all I got. You have anything? Any last words?
You can survive.
We survived the show. At the beginning, it was a little. You saw Michelle at the beginning. She was a little uncomfortable, but we got we got loose and we got real with the topic. And I, as usual, I appreciate your minds and time. Please share the things that you all want me to discuss. There's no topic that I won't touch. None of these make me feel uncomfortable. They're necessary. But if we're going to evolve and do this thing called love, I promise you I will continue to study, even myself and my relationships, and the truth, hashtag non-truth, which to me is a word of God, to put it against what it is that I'm sharing with you all, because I take your lives very, very seriously. I take this platform seriously, and I will continue to pour into myself so that I can pour into you, and we can change this world one relationship and love at a time. It's been a pleasure. Y'all be safe. Take care. Have a good one. Peace.